I was at the doctor when my neighbor called frantically. "Your son is loading all your furniture into a truck." I rushed home and found my house empty. My son said coldly, "You're moving in with us now, we sold everything." I smiled and made one phone call. The next morning, he was begging on his knees because, "Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment from which part of the world you are watching, get comfortable and relax, let's begin." The phone buzzed in my hand, a harsh vibration against my palm. I stared at the screen, the cheerful background photo of my rose garden now obscured by the name GLADYS. A call, not a text, in the middle of my annual physical. Dr. Evans was mid-sentence, discussing my blood pressure, which was, as usual, perfectly fine. The phone buzzed again, insistent. Gladys never called during the day unless it was urgent. "I'm so sorry, doctor," I said, my voice sounding far away to my own ears. "I must take this." He nodded, smiling gently, and turned to his computer. I swiped to answer and brought the phone to my ear. "Gladys is everything." Her voice was a frantic, hushed whisper, cutting through the sterile clinic air. "Ellie, it's Marcus. He's here, right now." A cold thread of confusion wound through me. "At my house. He has a key, it's fine." I tried to keep my voice low, polite for the doctor's benefit. "No, Ellie, listen." Her breath hitched. "He's not visiting. He has a U-Haul, a big one, parked right in your driveway. He's loading your things into it." The words did not arrange themselves into a sensible picture. "My things." "Your dining set. The cherrywood one. The chairs. I saw him and that friend of his carrying it out the front door. They just took the china cabinet." The cold thread became a wire, tightening around my chest. The dining set, my mother. The one we'd used for every Thanksgiving, every birthday for 40 years. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Dr. Evans's voice became a muffled hum. The antiseptic smell of the clinic turned sharp and cloying. "Are you certain?" The question was automatic, foolish. "I'm looking out my kitchen window right now," she hissed. "He's coming back out with boxes. From your study, I think. Ellie, you need to come home, now." "I'm on my way." The words came out flat, toneless. I stood up, my legs steady but feeling detached. Dr. Evans looked up, concerned. "Mrs. Jenkins, is everything all right?" "A family emergency," I said, gathering my purse and coat. My movements were precise. "I have to go." "Of course, we can reschedule." I was already moving toward the door, offering a vague nod. The receptionist called something about checking out. I kept walking through the waiting room with its quiet patients, out into the bland hallway toward the elevator. The phone was still in my hand. I looked at it. No new calls from Marcus, no texts explaining, nothing. The drive home was a series of stark, disconnected impressions. The traffic lights were unusually bright. The lines on the road seemed too straight. I did not speed. I drove the exact limit, using the measured rhythm of the turn signal, the careful checks of the mirrors to keep the wire in my chest from snapping. I did not allow myself to think. Thinking would lead to conclusions, and conclusions were unacceptable. There had to be a reason, a misunderstanding. Gladys, dear as she was in her 70s. Her eyesight, a mistake. But I knew Gladys, and I knew my son. I turned onto my street. Oak-lined, quiet. My house was at the end of the cul-de-sac. From a distance, nothing seemed amiss. The lawn was neat. The azaleas by the porch were blooming. Then I saw the shape. A large, boxy truck, white and orange, parked at an angle in my driveway. A U-Haul. Its rear door was open, a dark mouth. I pulled up to the curb behind it, not in my driveway. I turned off the engine and sat. The front door of my house was closed. No one was outside. The street was silent. I got out of the car. The air smelled of cut grass and faintly of diesel. I walked up the driveway. My steps were slow. I peered into the back of the truck. It was not full. But there, shoved toward the front, I saw them. The legs of my dining chairs, wrapped in moving blankets. The distinct carved top of one of the chairs poked out. Beside them were cardboard boxes, haphazardly stacked. One was labeled kitchen in thick black marker, the handwriting unfamiliar. I turned and looked at my house, my home. I walked to the front door. It was unlocked. I pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Not my smell. the scent of lemon polish and old books and the lavender sachets I kept in the linen closet. It was empty air, faintly dusty, and underneath, the crisp, aquatic note of Marcus's cologne. The foyer was bare. The small mahogany table that had held a vase of fresh flowers for decades was gone. The rug was gone, leaving a lighter rectangle on the dark hardwood floor. I walked into the living room. It echoed. Every bookshelf was empty. The walls, where family photos had chronicled 40 years, were now just a series of faint shadows and nail holes. The sofa, the armchairs, the lamps, all gone. The television stand stood empty in the corner. Sunlight streamed in through the bay window, illuminating dancing motes of dust in the vast, hollow space. My heart was a dull, heavy thing in my chest. I walked through the dining room arch. The room was a void. The china cabinet, the buffet, the table, the chairs, all gone. Only the ghostly impressions of their feet remained on the rug, which I now saw was also gone from the far side of the room, rolled up and taken. I heard a noise from upstairs. A floorboard creaked, then footsteps on the stairs. Marcus appeared in the living room doorway. He was dressed in dark jeans and a polo shirt, clothes for moving. He looked surprised to see me, but only for a second. Then his face settled into an expression of calm resolve. "Mom, you're back early." I could not speak. I looked from his face to the emptiness around us, then back to his face. He stepped fully into the room, his hands in his pockets. "I was going to call you. We've been busy." "Where?" I started, and my voice was a dry rustle. I cleared my throat. "Where are my things, Marcus?" He gestured vaguely toward the front of the house. "In the truck, and some are already in storage. It's temporary." "Storage?" I repeated the word. "Why are my belongings in storage?" He let out a short sigh, the one he used when explaining something simple to someone who was being deliberately slow. "Because the house is being prepared for sale, Mom. We talked about this. You moving in with me and Dana." We had not talked about this. We had talked, months ago, about me perhaps downsizing in a few years, a theoretical conversation. He had mentioned his condo's guest room. I had said I would think about it. That was all. I never agreed to sell my house. I never agreed to move. "You need more help. You're not getting any younger. This place is too much for you." His tone was reasonable, practiced. I looked at the empty space where my reading chair had been. "So you took it upon yourself to empty it, to sell my furniture." "It's just stuff, Mom. We'll get new things for the condo, better things, modern things." He took a step toward me. "This is for your own good. It's all arranged. The realtor comes tomorrow. We got a great offer on a lot of the furniture already. That dining set was worth a fortune." That was the moment. The wire snapped. The cold dread evaporated, replaced by a clear, sterile silence in my head. He had appraised my mother's dining set. He had sold it. I looked at my son. I saw the man he had become. Handsome, assured, seeing sentiment as a currency with no value. My house, my life, was now a project to be managed, assets to be liquidated. A strange calm settled over me. The shock was still there, a tremor deep underneath, but on the surface, everything was still. I did not cry. I did not yell. I felt my face arrange itself into an expression. I think it was a smile, a small, tight one. Marcus saw it. His confidence flickered. Confusion crossed his features. My reaction was not in his script. "I need to make a call," I said, my voice even and quiet. "What, Mom, listen." "No," I said, the word cutting the air between us. "You listen. Do not remove one more thing from this house. Do not touch one more box." "You can't be serious. Everything is in motion." I did not answer him. I turned and walked back through the barren living room, through the hollow foyer and out the front door. I did not look at the truck. I walked past it, down the driveway and onto the lawn. I turned and looked at the house, my eyes scanning, assessing the damage. Then I saw it, the gap at the side of the front porch, the empty patch of earth, dark and freshly turned, my rose bush. The deep red one my husband had planted for our 20th anniversary. It was gone, nothing but a raw hole in the soil. I stood there on the grass looking at that hole, the final physical proof. He had not just emptied my house. He had dug up a living piece of my history and taken it away. The calm inside me hardened into something solid, something sharp and deliberate. I took my phone from my pocket. I had a call to make. But first, I stood and memorized the emptiness. I let it fill me. It was no longer a feeling of loss. It was a blueprint. I stood on the lawn for another minute, the phone a cool weight in my hand. The hole where my rose bush had been was a dark pupil staring up from the earth. I turned my back on it and walked toward the house. My footsteps were quiet on the porch steps. The front door was still open. Marcus was in the living room, talking on his phone in a low, urgent voice. "Just get it to the unit, I'll meet you there. She's here now, but it's handled." He saw me and ended the call. "Mom, we need to finish this conversation." I stepped into the center of the empty room. The space felt larger, unfamiliar. Our voices did not soften against furniture and curtains. They bounced off the bare walls and floors. "There is no conversation, Marcus. You will unload that truck. You will return every item you have taken. Today." He sighed again, that same impatient exhalation. He leaned against the wall where the bookshelves had been. "That's not happening. Look, I didn't want to do it this way, but you left me no choice. You're stuck in the past. This house, all this stuff. It's holding you back. It's not safe for you to live alone anymore." I am 62 years old. I have a driver's license, I pay my bills, I have no cognitive impairments. My doctor, whom I just left, confirms I am in excellent health. What precisely is not safe? It's a lot of space. Stairs, maintenance, things break. What if you fall? He spread his hands, a gesture meant to convey reason. "Dana and I have plenty of room. The guest suite is on the ground floor. It's a better situation for everyone." A situation I did not agree to. "You wouldn't agree, you're stubborn. This is for your own good." He pushed off from the wall and took a step toward me. His tone shifted, becoming firmer, final. "The decision is made. The house is going on the market. We've sold most of the furniture. The proceeds will go into a managed account for your care. You're moving in with us. It's settled." The words hung in the empty air. For your own good. It's settled. They were not arguments. They were declarations. He was not discussing my future. He was announcing it. The cold, solid feeling inside me grew denser. "You sold my furniture." My voice was flat. "It was old. You'll get new things." "My mother's dining set." "It was just a table and chairs, Mom. It fetched a great price." "The rose bush, the one your father planted." For the first time, he looked slightly disconcerted, as if I had brought up an irrelevant detail. "It was a bush. It was in the way. We can get another one." I looked at him, my only child. I saw the man who had played on this floor, who had done his homework at that dining table, who had helped his father plant that rose bush. I saw the stranger who now stood before me, speaking of my life as a problem he had solved. The grief was there, a sharp, clean cut, but it was immediately cauterized by a wave of pure, clarifying fury. I did not let it show. I let it become fuel. A strange sensation pulled at the corners of my mouth. My facial muscles moved without my conscious direction. I was smiling. It was not a warm smile. It felt thin and sharp on my face. Marcus saw it, his eyes narrowed. "What?" "I need to make a call," I said again, my voice perfectly even. "Who are you calling? There's no one to call, it's done." I ignored him. I scrolled through my contacts, my fingers steady. I had saved the number months ago after a seminar at the senior center. I had never thought I would need it. I found the entry, Beverly Clarke ESQ, Elder Law. I pressed the call button and put the phone to my ear. Marcus watched, his confusion shifting to annoyance. The line rang twice. A crisp, professional voice answered. "Law offices of Beverly Clarke." "My name is Alina Jenkins. I need to speak with Attorney Clarke immediately. It is an emergency regarding the unlawful removal of my property and an attempted eviction." There was a brief pause on the line. I heard the click of a keyboard. "One moment, Ms. Jenkins." Marcus's face darkened. "What are you doing? Who is that? This is a family matter." I held up a single finger, a gesture so dismissive it made him flinch. He was not used to being dismissed. Another voice came on the line, deeper, calmer, radiating a composed authority. "Alina Jenkins, this is Beverly Clarke. Explain your emergency." I did not look at Marcus. I looked at the empty space where my life had been. I spoke clearly and without emotion. My son, Marcus Jenkins, has, without my knowledge or consent, emptied my home of its furnishings and personal effects. They are currently in a rental truck and a storage unit. He has informed me he has sold some items. He has stated his intention to sell my house and force me to move into his residence against my will. I am standing in my empty home now. He is here with me. Another keyboard click. Are you in any immediate physical danger? No. Is the property in your name? Yes, solely, for 40 years. Do you have the deed, tax records? In my study, in a filing cabinet he apparently missed. Good. Her voice was like a steadying hand on my shoulder. Listen carefully. Do not leave the premises. Do not allow him to remove anything else. If he attempts to force you to leave, call the police immediately and state you are being illegally evicted from your own property. Do you have a trusted neighbor? Yes, Gladys Patterson. She called me to alert me to the theft. Excellent. I am going to give you an address. I want you to come to my office today. Can you do that? Yes. Bring any documentation you have. We will file an emergency injunction this afternoon. We will also discuss civil actions for conversion, trespass, and financial elder abuse. Do you understand? The legal terms were unfamiliar, but their intent was clear. They were tools, weapons. I understand. The address is 214 Magnolia Avenue, Suite 300. Can you be here by 2 o'clock? I looked at my watch. It was 11:30. I can. I will see you then, Elena. Stay calm. You are not powerless here. She ended the call. I lowered the phone. Marcus was staring at me, his earlier confidence entirely gone, replaced by a baffled and growing anger. Who was that? What injunction? What are you talking about? I met his gaze. The smile was gone from my face now. My expression was neutral, blank. You should call your friend. Tell him to bring the truck back. I'm not doing that. This is ridiculous. You're being irrational. I am being legal, I corrected him. I walked past him toward the kitchen. It too was stripped. The canisters, the toaster, the good knives, all gone. Only the heavy appliances remained. I opened a cupboard. They had taken the everyday dishes but missed the high shelf where I kept my important papers box. I pulled it down. What are you doing now? Marcus demanded, following me. I did not answer. I opened the box and found the folder labeled house. I pulled out the deed, the most recent property tax bill. I tucked the folder under my arm. Mom, stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. You're going to cause a scene. I turned to face him. You caused the scene, Marcus. You brought the U-Haul. You dug up the rose bush. You sold my mother's table. I took a step toward him. He did not retreat, but his posture stiffened. You have 2 hours to return every single item to this house. If you do not, the next communication you receive will be from an officer of the court. He laughed then, a short, harsh sound with no humor. You're bluffing. You won't see your own son, over some furniture. I looked at him for a long moment. I saw the little boy who used to believe I could fix anything. I saw the man who believed I would roll over for anything. He understood neither of those people anymore. It is not about the furniture, I said quietly. It is about my door. You do not get to decide when it opens or closes. You do not get to decide who walks through it. You do not get to decide if I stay or go. That is my right, and I am going to exercise it. I walked around him, back through the living room, toward the front door. I needed my purse from the car. I needed to go to an office on Magnolia Avenue. Where are you going? His voice was louder now, edged with the first real note of panic. I have an appointment, I said, and I walked out of my empty house, closing the front door firmly behind me. I did not lock it. Let him stay in the hollow shell he had created. I had building to do. The door clicked shut behind me, cutting off the echo of the empty house. I did not look back. I walked to my car, got in, and started the engine. The U-Haul truck was still in my driveway, a silent testament to the violation. I backed out onto the street and drove away. My hands were steady on the wheel. I did not allow myself to think about the emptiness. I thought about the folder on the passenger seat. I thought about the address, 214 Magnolia Avenue. I had passed the building before, a stately 3-story brick structure near the courthouse. I focused on the route, the turns, the traffic lights. The mechanical process of driving held the chaos at bay. I arrived with 20 minutes to spare. I sat in the car for a moment, looking at the building. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked composed. The silver streaks in my hair were neat. My face showed nothing. I gathered the folder and my purse and went inside. The office was on the 3rd floor. The waiting area was quiet, furnished with comfortable chairs and a large painting of a magnolia tree. A polite receptionist took my name. "Attorney Clark is expecting you. Go right in." Beverly Clark's office was not large, but it was ordered. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined one wall, filled with legal volumes. A large, tidy desk dominated the room. She stood as I entered. She was a tall woman, dressed in a tailored navy suit. Her hair was cut close to her head. Her eyes were sharp and assessing, but her smile was brief and professional. "Eleanor Jenkins, please have a seat." She gestured to a chair in front of her desk. I sat. She returned to her own chair, folding her hands on the blotter. "Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. Leave nothing out even if it seems small." I told her. I began with Gladys's call at the doctor's office. I described arriving home, the U-Haul, the empty rooms. I repeated Marcus's words verbatim. "For your own good, it's settled, we've sold everything." I mentioned the rose bush. I told her about the missed filing cabinet and the documents I brought. My voice was a monotone. I presented facts. She listened without interruption, her gaze fixed on me. When I finished, she nodded once. "You did the correct thing by calling and by coming here immediately. What your son has done constitutes several actionable offenses. We will proceed on multiple fronts." She opened a fresh legal pad. "First, we will file an emergency ex parte motion for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction. This will order him to cease all actions regarding your property, to return any items removed, and to refrain from attempting to evict you or sell the home. A judge will likely sign it today based on your affidavit." "Ex parte?" I asked. "Without him being present. Given the imminent harm, the potential sale of your assets, we can seek immediate relief. He will be served with the order once it's issued. If he violates it, he will be in contempt of court." "I understand." "Second, we will prepare a civil complaint. The causes of action will include conversion, the unlawful taking of your personal property, trespass to chattels, financial elder abuse under state statute, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We will sue for the return of all property, for compensatory damages, and for punitive damages to deter such conduct." The terms were clinical. They transformed my gut-wrenching hurt into a list of violations. It was a relief. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "A signed affidavit detailing everything you just told me. A list of every item you know to be missing. Any photographs you have of your home prior to today. Any correspondence with your son about your living situation. The deed and tax records you brought. Do you know where the storage unit is located?" "Not yet. His friend was taking things there. Marcus mentioned meeting him." "We will find it. The injunction will compel him to disclose the location. For now, do not return to the house if he is there. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight?" "I will get a hotel room." "Good, do not engage with him. If he contacts you, direct all communication to this office. Do not answer questions. Do not argue. Your only statement is, 'Please speak to my attorney.' Can you do that?" "Yes." She pushed a retainer agreement across the desk. "This outlines my fees and the scope of representation. Read it carefully. I require a retainer to begin work." I did not hesitate. I read the document. It was straightforward. I took a pen from the cup on her desk and signed my name. I wrote a check from my personal account, one Marcus did not have access to. The amount was significant, but it was not money. It was an investment in my own autonomy. Beverly took the signed agreement and the check. "I will have my assistant prepare the affidavit for your signature. It will take about an hour. You can wait here or return later." "I will wait." I sat in the quiet office while she made calls, her voice a low, confident murmur. I looked at the books on her shelves. They were codes, rules, procedures. A system. I had spent my life in a library respecting systems of knowledge. This was another system, and I would learn its rules. An hour later, I signed a notarized affidavit. The facts of my betrayal were now a formal court document. Beverly placed it in a file. The motion will be filed within the hour. A judge will review it this afternoon. I will call you as soon as the order is signed. Where will you be? The Garden Inn on Main Street. I will check in shortly. Very well, go rest. I will be in touch. I left her office. The afternoon sun was bright. I drove to the hotel, checked into a room on the second floor. It was impersonal, neutral colors, generic artwork, a king-sized bed. I placed my small overnight bag on the luggage stand. I had packed nothing from home. Everything in the bag was from my recent grocery trip, still in the car. I sat at the desk. There was a hotel notepad and a pen. I opened the pad to a fresh page. At the top, I wrote inventory. I began to list every missing item I could remember. I started room by room. Living room, sofa, ivory fabric, purchased 1998. 2 armchairs matching, cherrywood bookshelves, 4 units. All books, approximately 300 volumes, including first edition Hughes poetry. Persian rug, blue and gold. Brass floor lamps, too. I wrote without sentiment. I listed manufacturers, years purchased, distinguishing features. I estimated values where I could remember. My hand did not shake. The act was methodical. It was a reclaiming. Each item named was an item I was going to take back. The list grew. Dining set, cherrywood, 8 chairs, 1 leaf, heirloom from mother. China cabinet matching, crystal stemware, 24 pieces. Silverware set, sterling. Buffet server with scratch on left side. I wrote for over an hour. I filled 3 pages. When I could not remember more, I stopped. I set the pen down. I looked at the list. It was not a record of loss. It was a blueprint for recovery. It was also evidence. My phone buzzed on the desk. A text from Marcus. Mom, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Call me. I read the words. I felt nothing. I typed my reply exactly as instructed. Please speak to my attorney, Beverly Clark. I included the phone number for her office. I sent it. I placed the phone face down on the desk. I ordered room service, a simple salad and soup. I ate at the desk, reviewing my list. When I was finished, I filed the notepad pages in my folder with the deed. Beverly Clark called at 5:15. Her voice was crisp with satisfaction. The temporary restraining order and injunction have been signed by Judge Wilkins. They are being served to Marcus at his condo address as we speak. He is ordered to return all property to your home immediately and is prohibited from any further contact with you except through counsel. The hearing for the preliminary injunction is set for 1 week from today. Thank you, I said. The process has begun, Eleanor. Get some sleep. I ended the call. I stood by the window looking out at the parking lot. The light was fading. Somewhere my son was being handed a stack of papers that declared his actions unlawful. Somewhere my belongings were in a dark storage unit. They were no longer lost. They were now legally misappropriated. There was a difference. One was a feeling. The other was a fact. I did not feel triumphant. I felt focused. The hotel room was a temporary command post. The list was my battle plan. The signed order was my first piece of ammunition. I got ready for bed. I slept deeply, and I did not dream. The morning light through the hotel blinds was harsh and artificial. I woke at 6, my mind already clear. I showered, dressed in the same clothes from the day before, and packed my small bag. Before checking out, I called Gladys. Her phone rang only once. Ellie, are you all right? Where are you? I'm fine, Gladys. I'm at the Garden Inn. I need to see you. Can I come over? Of course. Right away. I've been worried sick. I saw him leave last night. The U-Haul was gone. He looked agitated. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I checked out, paid with my own card, and drove to our street. It felt strange to park in front of Gladys's house instead of my own. Her home was a mirror image of mine, but filled with the clutter of a long life. Knickknacks, doilies, photographs of grandchildren. The air smelled of coffee and toast. She opened the door before I could knock, her eyes wide with concern. She pulled me into a quick, tight hug. Come in, dear. I've made coffee. We sat at her kitchen table, the same model as the one Marcus had taken from my house. She pushed a mug toward me. Now, tell me everything. I gave her a concise report, the call to Attorney Clark, the temporary restraining order, the upcoming hearing, my night at the hotel. I spoke in facts, not feelings. Gladys listened, her hand over her mouth. When I finished, she shook her head slowly. I knew that boy had a mean streak, but this is monstrous. What can I do? You've already done the most important thing. You warned me, but I need more. You said you saw them loading the truck. Did you take any pictures, any video? A sly, determined look crossed her face. She stood up. Wait here. She disappeared into her living room and returned a moment later with her tablet. She tapped the screen a few times and handed it to me. I'm not just a nosy old woman. I'm a prepared nosy old woman. On the screen was a video. The timestamp showed yesterday, 10:47 a.m. The perspective was from her kitchen window, looking diagonally across our driveways. The image was clear. It showed Marcus and another man, someone I didn't recognize, carrying my dining chairs out the front door. They loaded them into the back of the U-Haul. The video had no sound, but their movements were casual, efficient. Marcus was smiling, saying something to his friend. I took pictures too, Gladys said, swiping the screen. A series of still photos followed. Close-ups of the truck's license plate, a shot of the friend's face, a picture of the empty spot on my porch where the rose bush had been, the dark earth visible, another of the gap in my living room window where the bookshelves had stood. This is excellent, Gladys. This is evidence. I thought it might be. She sat down, looking pleased but serious. What else? We need to document everything. A complete inventory. I started a list, but I need your help. Your memory, your eyes, and we need to find out where that storage unit is. She nodded firmly. First, let's finish your list, then we'll play detective. We worked for 2 hours. We sat at her table with a fresh notepad. We went through my house room by room in our minds. Gladys remembered things I had forgotten, the porcelain figurine on my bedroom dresser, a gift from my late husband, the set of copper mixing bowls that hung in my kitchen, the specific pattern of my guest towels. Her memory was a perfect supplement to my own. We noted brands, colors, approximate ages. We created a second list of items we knew had been sold. The dining set, the living room furniture. Gladys had overheard Marcus mention a consignment shop called Vintage Revival to his friend. As we worked, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mom, it's Dana. Marcus is really upset. Can we please talk? This is all a huge misunderstanding. I showed the text to Gladys. His wife, she said, her lips thinning. She was never strong enough to stand up to him. I typed my standard reply. Please have Marcus direct all communication to my attorney, Beverly Clark. I included the number again and sent it. I then blocked the number. Good, Gladys said. No distractions. Just after 10, my phone rang. It was Beverly Clark. I have news. The injunction order compelled your son to disclose the location of the storage facility. His attorney provided it an hour ago. It's the Sherlock Storage on Industrial Parkway, Unit 114. The order also requires him to provide you access. He has until 5 p.m. today to deliver the gate code and unit key to my office. However, I advise you not to wait. You have a legal right to view the unit to ascertain your property is there. Do you want to go? Yes, immediately. Go, observe. Do not remove anything yet. Take photographs. Document the condition. I will call the facility manager to inform them of the court order and your arrival. I'll go now. I ended the call. They found it, I told Gladys. Sherlock on Industrial Parkway, will you come with me? Try and stop me, she said, already reaching for her sweater and purse. The storage facility was a sprawling complex of beige corrugated metal units. It looked bleak under the flat midday sun. We stopped at the office. The manager, a young man with a bored expression, perked up when I gave my name. Oh yeah, I just got a call from some lawyer. Unit 114. Here's a temporary gate code. The tenant, Marcus Jenkins, is the only one on the lease with the key, but the lawyer said you have a court paper saying you can look. I do, I said. showing him a copy of the injunction order. He glanced at it. Okay, drive on through. Row G down at the end. We drove through the maze of identical doors. The place was quiet, save for the distant sound of traffic from the highway. We found Unit 114. It was a standard 10x20 unit. A heavy padlock hung on the latch. We can't get in, Gladys said, disappointed. We don't need to get in yet, we need to see. I walked to the side of the unit. There was a narrow gap between the metal wall and the next unit. Give me your phone, the camera might fit. Gladys handed me her phone with the camera app open. I edged into the gap, turned on the flash, and carefully slid the phone through the small opening between the door and its frame, angling it upward. I took several blind photos, then a short video, panning as best I could. I pulled the phone out, and we looked at the screen. The flash had illuminated the dark interior. The image was grainy but unmistakable. We saw the legs of my dining table, stacked on its side. My sofa, wrapped in moving blankets. Boxes haphazardly piled. The familiar shape of my china cabinet. My belongings crammed into a cold, dusty metal box. I felt a jolt, not of sadness, but of confirmation. There they were, not lost. Stolen. Contained. I took a picture of the unit number, the padlock brand, the general surroundings. I took a picture of Gladys standing by the door for scale and witness. They're really in there, Gladys whispered, her voice a mix of outrage and triumph. Yes, I took a deep breath. The air smelled of concrete and diesel. Now we have the location. Now we have visual proof they are here. Beverly will use this to ensure the return. We drove back to Gladys's house in silence. The gravity of it was settling. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a documented crime scene. When we got back, I emailed all the photos and videos, Gladys's from yesterday and mine from today, to Beverly Clark. Her reply came within minutes, received. This is perfect. The injunction is filed and served. The hearing is scheduled. Your evidence is compelling. Continue to document. Do not engage. You are building an unassailable case. I read the email to Gladys. She poured us 2 small glasses of sherry, a habit from her late husband. We didn't toast. We simply drank. The sweet liquid was a sharp contrast to the day's bitterness. We're building a case, I said, the legal term feeling solid and real on my tongue. We are, Gladys agreed, and we're going to win it. The sherry glass was empty on the table. The resolve in the room was not. I spent the night on Gladys's sofa, a blanket pulled over me. I slept in short, alert intervals. The next morning, I was at her kitchen table again when my phone rang at 8:15. It was Beverly Clark. The complaints have been filed with the court, she said without preamble. 3 separate actions, one for conversion and trespass to chattels, one for financial elder abuse under the state's penal code, one for intentional infliction of emotional distress. The temporary restraining order and injunction remain in full effect. Process servers are en route to your son's office and his condominium as we speak. How long before he is served? I asked. Within the hour. I have also taken the liberty of sending a formal letter with copies of the filed complaints and the court order to the Property Management Association of his condominium complex. It outlines the nature of the allegations, specifically the illegal conversion of property which may be stored on the premises, and notes his potential violation of association rules regarding lawful use and nuisance. A small, cold point of satisfaction formed in my chest. She was not just targeting Marcus, she was targeting his environment, his standing. What should I expect? I asked. Expect attempts at contact, anger, pleading, threats perhaps. You have my instructions, do not respond. Record any voicemails, save any texts, forward everything to me. The hearing for the preliminary injunction is in 4 days. Our position is strong. Thank you, Beverly. This is the process, Alina. This is the system working. I ended the call and relayed the information to Gladys, who was buttering toast with intense focus. Good, she said. Let him feel the weight of it. The weight arrived at approximately 9:45. Gladys's landline rang. She looked at the caller ID and her eyes widened. She showed me the display, JENKINS, MARCUS. Let it go to the machine, I said. She nodded. We listened as the answering machine beeped. Mrs. Patterson, Gladys, it's Marcus. Look, I know my mother is there. I need to speak with her. This has gone far enough. These legal papers, this is insane. She can't do this. Please put her on the phone. His voice was strained, a mix of anger and forced civility. Gladys looked at me. I shook my head once. She said nothing. We listened to his breathing on the line for a few seconds before he hung up with a sharp click. My own phone began to buzz then, a call from Marcus. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. A minute later, a text arrived. Mom, call me. Now, this is a disaster. I took a screenshot of the text and emailed it to Beverly. I did not reply. At 10:30, Gladys's phone rang again. This time, the ID showed a different name. Gladys frowned. It's Dana. Let it go, I said. The machine picked up. Dana's voice was thin, anxious. Gladys, hi, it's Dana. Marcus is, well, he's very upset. Someone came to his office and served him with papers. In front of his colleagues, it was humiliating. And now there's some issue with the condo board. Please, can you ask Alina to call me? We're family. We need to sort this out privately. The message ended. Gladys raised an eyebrow. Humiliating, she repeated, the word flat. That was the point, I said. Not to humiliate, but to establish consequence. The public nature of it was a necessary part of the legal mechanism, but I understood the effect it would have on a man like Marcus. His professional image was a carefully curated asset. Now it was tarnished. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from an unknown number. Alina, this is Richard Cole, Marcus's attorney. We need to arrange a discussion to resolve this matter amicably. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I forwarded that text to Beverly as well. Her response was almost immediate. Do not respond. I will contact him. This is a typical tactic to bypass counsel. The morning passed in a strange, quiet tension. We occupied ourselves with small tasks. Gladys watered her plants. I reviewed the inventory list again, adding a few more items she remembered. We were two women in a quiet kitchen, but a storm was breaking elsewhere, and we had set its coordinates. Just after 1 o'clock, Beverly called again. Her voice held a note of professional triumph. The condo association president just contacted me. They received the letter. They have reviewed their bylaws. They are issuing a formal notice to your son that the storage of allegedly unlawfully obtained property on the premises, specifically, any items belonging to you, may constitute a violation and could result in fines or a hearing before the board. They have requested a copy of the eventual court disposition. That was fast, I said. These associations are risk-averse. They do not want to be implicated in litigation. It applies pressure. I imagined Marcus receiving that notice, perhaps just after the process server left, perhaps as he was trying to explain the lawsuits to his wife. The walls were contracting around him. As if on cue, my phone lit up with another call from Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. This time, he left a message. I put it on speaker for Gladys to hear. His voice was low, taut, stripped of its earlier demanding tone. It was the voice of a man realizing the ground was falling away. Mom, it's me. Please pick up. We need to talk. These lawsuits, the condo board, you can't possibly want this. I made a mistake, okay? A big mistake. Let's talk, just you and me. We can fix this. You don't need that lawyer. We're family. Call me back. There was a long pause. Please. The message ended. Gladys and I looked at each other. The word mistake hung in the air. It was an admission, but a flimsy one. A mistake was a miscalculation. What he had done was a campaign. He's scared, Gladys said. He's beginning to understand, I corrected. Fear was a byproduct of understanding consequences. I saved the voicemail and forwarded the audio file to Beverly. My action was automatic now. Evidence, documentation. Every communication was a brick in the wall I was building. Beverly called back 20 minutes later. I just spoke with Richard Cole, Marcus's attorney. He proposed a family settlement conference to avoid the hearing. I declined. I informed him we are proceeding to the injunction hearing and that all communication regarding the return of property must be in writing, in compliance with the court order. He was not pleased. Marcus is not in control of the narrative anymore. His lawyer is realizing the depth of the problem. What happens next? I asked. We wait for the hearing. Continue to document. Do not break your silence. The pressure is mounting on him. His personal, professional, and now residential environments are all signaling that his actions have serious repercussions. Our job is to let that pressure build. I thanked her and hung up. The rest of the day was quiet. No more calls, no more texts. The sudden silence felt more significant than the flurry of contact. It was the silence of a man regrouping, or perhaps of a man crumbling. That evening, as Gladys and I ate a simple dinner, I considered the word disaster from Marcus's text. To him, the disaster was the legal response. He could not see that the disaster was his own making. The moment he decided my life was his to dismantle. He had confused his power with his authority. I was teaching him the difference. The lesson was costly, and it was only beginning. The silence lasted 2 days. 2 days of waiting, of list-making, of staying within the walls of Gladys's home. Beverly called each morning with a brief update. The court was processing the paperwork. The hearing was confirmed. Marcus's attorney had filed a response that was, in her words, feeble. The pressure was a steady, silent hum. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, it broke. Gladys was at the supermarket. I was in her living room, reviewing a copy of the complaint Beverly had couriered over. The doorbell rang, 2 sharp, impatient bursts. I knew it was him before I looked through the peephole. His silhouette was tense, his head tilted down. I did not open the door. I stood and waited. The bell rang again, followed by a hard knock. "Mom, I know you're in there. Gladys's car is gone. Open the door. We need to talk." I remained silent. I picked up my phone and set it to record video, placing it on a side table with the lens pointed toward the front door. "Aliner," his voice rose, using my given name like a weapon. "This is ridiculous. Open this door right now." I walked to the door but did not unlock it. "You are in violation of the temporary restraining order, Marcus. It prohibits contact except through counsel. You need to leave." "It's my mother's door. This is a family matter. You can't hide behind a lawyer forever." His words were angry, but beneath them was a raw, panicked edge. "I am not hiding. I am following a court order. You should do the same. Leave now, or I will call the police and report a violation." A fist thumped against the wood. "You would call the cops on your own son, after everything I've done for you." The audacity of the question almost made me speak. I stopped myself. I said nothing. I heard him take a heavy breath. When he spoke again, his tone shifted, attempting reason. "Look, just listen. Please, I get it. I went too fast. I should have talked to you more. But you have to understand the position you're putting me in. The lawsuits, the injunction, do you know what this is doing to me?" I did not reply. "My reputation at work is shot. The condo board is fining me for improper use of the property. Dana is, she's asking questions. The money from the consignment sales is tied up. I was counting on the proceeds from the house to cover some obligations." His voice cracked on the last word. It was an admission of financial motive, stark and ugly. Still, I stayed silent. Let him hear the void his words fell into. "Mom, please, if you drop the lawsuits, if you call off your lawyer, we can fix this. We can work something out. You can have your stuff back, most of it anyway. We'll figure out the house later. Just make this stop." There it was, his offer. Not an apology, a negotiation, most of it anyway. My mother's table was already sold. My rose bush was likely in a dumpster. He was offering a partial return in exchange for my surrender. The cold resolve inside me solidified into something diamond hard. I spoke through the door, my voice level and clear. "The court will figure it out. At the hearing. Now leave." "No, you don't get to do this." The anger exploded back to the surface. The knob rattled violently, though he knew it was locked. "This is my future. You're ruining my life over some old furniture and a stupid house." "You tried to ruin mine," I said, the words quiet but precise. "You do not get to complain about the consequences." There was a long pause. I could hear his ragged breathing. "You're really going through with this? You're really going to sit in a courtroom and tell a judge I abused you, your own son. I will present the facts. The judge will decide what they are called. He made a sound, a half-choked mix of a laugh and a sob. I can't believe this, after all I've done. I was thinking of you, your safety, your well-being. You were thinking of my equity, I corrected, and you miscalculated. The truth of it, stated so plainly, seemed to deflate him. The anger left his voice, replaced by a hollow desperation. What do you want from me? What do you want me to do? I want you to comply with the court order. I want you to return every item you took. I want you to cease all efforts to control my life. That is what I want, and the law will ensure I get it. You've changed, he whispered, his mouth close to the doorframe. You're cold, you're not my mother. The words were meant to wound. They landed, but they did not penetrate. They confirmed the distance he had created. You are correct, I said. I am not the mother you took for granted. That woman trusted you. I do not. Now, for the last time, leave this property. I heard him step back from the door. A moment of silence. Then his footsteps, heavy and slow, retreating down Gladys's porch steps. A car door slammed. An engine started, too loud, and pulled away with a squeal of tires. I waited a full minute. Then I retrieved my phone and stopped the recording. I saved the file. I sent an email to Beverly with the video attached and a summary of the conversation. Subject: violation of TRO. Personal confrontation at residence of Gladys Patterson. Audio captured. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Received. This is a clear violation. We will add it to our filing for the hearing. His admissions regarding financial motive are particularly useful. Do not be alarmed. He is desperate. You handled it correctly. I was not alarmed. I was focused. The encounter had served a purpose. It had shown me the face of his unraveling. The bluster was gone. The arrogance was stripped away. What remained was a scared man facing the tangible wreckage of his plan. He had believed my love for him was a weakness he could exploit. He was learning it was not love that made me strong, it was principle, and principles could be enforced. Gladys returned an hour later, her arms full of grocery bags. What happened? She asked immediately, reading my face. Marcus was here. He tried to get me to drop the case. Her eyes widened. What did you do? I recorded him. I told him to leave. He left. She put the bags down on the kitchen counter. Was he threatening? He was desperate, I said. It is a different thing, more dangerous in some ways, but also weaker. I helped her put away the groceries. The mundane task was a grounding counterpoint to the confrontation. That night, as I lay on the sofa, I replayed his words. You're ruining my life over some old furniture and a stupid house. He truly could not see it. He could not comprehend that the house was not just wood and plaster. It was 40 years of my labor, my memory, my choice. The furniture was not just objects. It was the stage upon which our family's life had been performed. By reducing it all to assets, he had not been pragmatic. He had been blind. And his blindness had led him here, to a closed door and a recording device. The hearing was tomorrow. The unraveling was nearly complete. I closed my eyes. I did not think of the little boy he had been. I thought of the legal file, thick with evidence. I thought of the judge's bench. I thought of the gavel. I slept. The morning of the hearing arrived with a thin, gray light. I dressed in a simple navy suit, a choice for clarity and respect. Beverly had instructed me to meet her at the courthouse an hour early. As I was finishing a cup of tea at Gladys's table, her landline rang. She answered, Patterson residence. She listened, her eyes meeting mine. Yes, she is. One moment, please. She covered the receiver. It's Miriam Carter from the church. I took the phone. Miriam. Eleanor, honey, we heard. Miriam's voice was warm but grave. She was the head of the Deaconess Board, a woman who knew everything that happened in our corner of the community. About Marcus, about the house. Gladys told Alma Johnson, who told me, we are praying for you. But more than that, several of us have things to say about Marcus's dealings, his character. That young man tried to buy the Johnsons' property last year, lowballed them terribly, and made threats when they refused. Alma has the emails. She wants to give them to your lawyer. I processed this. That would be helpful. Thank you, Miriam. It's not just Alma. Carl Jefferson from the credit union. You know his nephew worked for Marcus's firm, left under bad circumstances. He has stories about pressured appraisals. He's willing to talk. We've been quiet too long, thinking it was just business. But this, with his own mother. It's a pattern, Alina. We see it now. Can you have them contact my attorney? I gave her Beverly Clark's name and number. We will, and we'll be there today, a few of us, to sit in that courtroom. You won't be alone. I thanked her and hung up. The phone rang again almost immediately. This time it was a local reporter, Lydia Shaw, from the Community Chronicle. She had heard rumors of a noteworthy elder rights case and wanted a comment. I followed Beverly's protocol and referred her to the law office. Before I could put the phone down, my cell buzzed. Beverly. Change of plan, she said. Do not come to the courthouse yet. Come to my office. We have statements to collect. Your community is pouring out of the woodwork, and we need to document it now. The judge may allow supplemental declarations at the hearing if they are relevant. Gladys drove me. When we entered Beverly's office, the atmosphere was one of controlled urgency. Beverly's assistant was on the phone, typing rapidly. In the waiting area sat Alma Johnson and Carl Jefferson. They stood when they saw me. Alma took my hands. That boy of yours, she said, shaking her head. I'm so sorry, Ellie. Carl, a man of few words, nodded. Got the paperwork. It's not right what he did to you, or to others. Beverly ushered us into a conference room. For the next 90 minutes, she took formal declarations. Alma provided a notarized statement and copies of emails where Marcus, representing his development company, had offered a price 40% below market for her aunt's home. When she declined, subsequent emails became accusatory, suggesting the property was a blight and he would have to report code violations. Carl Jefferson's statement was about his nephew, Liam. He described a culture in Marcus's firm of pushing ethical boundaries on appraisals to secure loans for flipped properties. Liam had refused to sign off on one and was fired shortly after. Carl had the termination letter, which cited cultural misfit. While this was happening, Beverly's assistant brought in a fax. It was a short, supportive declaration from the director of the local senior center, where I had volunteered for years, attesting to my sound mind and independence. The reporter, Lydia Shaw, called, Beverly informed me, glancing up from the papers. I gave her a brief, factual overview of the case, focusing on the legal principles of elder autonomy and property rights. No comment on the family dynamics. She is running a piece online this afternoon, before the hearing. It will be titled, Community Rallies Around Local Senior in Property Dispute. The Court of Public Opinion is now in session. It was a strategic move, and I understood it. The article would not sway the judge, but it would solidify the narrative and increase the social pressure on Marcus exponentially. We left for the courthouse with an expanded file. As we walked up the granite steps, I saw a small group gathered near the entrance. Miriam Carter was there, along with 3 other women from the church. A man I recognized as a former neighbor from years ago stood with them. They did not swarm me. They simply nodded, their presence a quiet, solid wall of support. Gladys squeezed my arm. See. Inside, the hallway outside the courtroom was crowded. I saw Marcus first. He stood with his attorney, a man in an expensive suit who was speaking to him in a low, intense voice. Marcus looked pale. His eyes scanned the hallway, taking in Miriam, Alma, Carl, the small cluster of my people. His gaze landed on me and flickered away, as if burned. His wife, Dana, was there, sitting on a bench alone. She looked at me, her expression conflicted and miserable. I gave her a small, neutral nod and looked away. Beverly guided me to a bench on the opposite side of the hall. Do not engage with anyone. We are here for the hearing, nothing else. I sat. I watched as Lydia Shaw, the reporter, approached Marcus's attorney with a notepad. The attorney held up a hand, shaking his head sharply. She then turned and came toward Beverly. Beverly gave a slight, professional smile. As I said on the phone, Ms. Shaw, we are here for the legal proceeding. I have no further comment at this time. Lydia nodded, took a seat in the back, and began typing on her phone. The bailiff opened the courtroom doors. People began to file in. As I stood, Alma Johnson touched my shoulder briefly. We're right here behind you, Ellie. The community had not just risen, it had assembled. It had provided evidence and witness. It had shown up. My fight was no longer a private, shameful family conflict. It was a public example. The weight of that was immense, but it was not a burden. It was a foundation. I walked into the courtroom, my back straight, feeling the collective gaze of my neighbors at my back and the stunned, isolated silence of my son across the aisle. The scales, as Beverly had said, had decisively tipped. The courtroom doors closed behind us, sealing in the tense silence. The hearing had not begun. It was a procedural delay. The judge was reviewing the new declarations. We were told to return at 9 the next morning. The anticlimax was a strange relief. Outside, the small crowd dispersed with quiet murmurs of support. Miriam promised to return in the morning. Alma and Carl left together, their statements now part of the official record. Beverly pulled me aside on the courthouse steps. The judge is thorough. He wants to review the supplemental evidence. This is good. It means he is taking it seriously. Go home, rest, be ready tomorrow. Gladys drove us back to her house. The adrenaline of the morning ebbed, leaving a hollow, quiet space. We ate lunch without speaking much. The house felt too still. I need to do something with my hands, I said finally. Gladys nodded toward the back door. The garden, it always needs something. I changed into an old pair of her gardening trousers and a worn shirt. Her backyard was a lush, slightly overgrown cottage garden, a contrast to my own more orderly beds. She handed me a trowel and a pair of gloves. The weeds around the lavender are getting bold. I knelt on the cushioned pad she provided. The soil was cool and damp. I began to work, my hands moving with a familiar rhythm. I dug the trowel under the base of a weed, loosened the roots, and pulled. The clean release of the roots from the earth was satisfying. I placed the weed in a bucket. I moved to the next one. The work was physical and simple. It required focus on the immediate task. Identify the intruder, separate it from the soil, remove it. There was no past, no future, only this plant, this patch of earth. The scent of lavender and damp soil rose around me. The late afternoon sun was warm on my back. As I worked, my mind cleared. I thought not of Marcus, but of the process. The law was like this, in a way. It identified the wrongful act, isolated it, and provided a tool for its removal. It was methodical. It was slow. But it worked if you followed the steps, if you had the proper tools and the patience to use them. Gladys came out after a while with 2 glasses of iced tea. She sat on a bench nearby, watching me work. "You're good at that," she said. "I've had practice," I said. 40 years of practice in my own garden, tending things, watching them grow. A home was not so different. You protected it. You nurtured it. You removed what threatened it. "What do you think will happen tomorrow?" she asked. "Beverly will present the facts. The judge will rule. The law is clear." I sat back on my heels, wiping my forehead with my arm. The outcome is predictable, but the aftermath is not. What does that mean? It means winning in court is one thing. What comes after that is a different matter. I did not know what I wanted from Marcus beyond the return of what was mine. I did not know what was left of the relationship, or if rebuilding was possible or desirable. The court could not decide that. Only I could. I worked until the light began to soften into evening. The bucket was full of weeds. The lavender bed looked clean and tended. My muscles ached pleasantly. I stood, brushing the dirt from my knees. Inside, as I washed my hands, Beverly called. "All set for tomorrow. The judge has read everything. Our case is solid. Get a good night's sleep. I will see you at 8:30 outside the courtroom." I thanked her. Gladys and I ate a simple dinner. The local news came on. There was a 30-second segment about the case, using the angle from Lydia Shaw's article. They showed a generic shot of the courthouse. The anchor said, "A story of community support for a local senior facing a property dispute with a family member has drawn attention to elder rights laws. A hearing is scheduled for tomorrow." No names were used, but the implication was clear. I turned off the television. The silence returned, but it was no longer tense. It was the silence of preparation. Asterisk. Across town, in a condominium that felt less like a trophy and more like a cage, Marcus was not experiencing silence. He sat at his sleek, glass-topped desk, the glow of his laptop the only light in the room. Spreadsheets were open on the screen, columns of red and black. The anticipated proceeds from the sale of his mother's house and furnishings were circled in a hopeful, now-defunct green. That green was supposed to cover the bridge loan he'd taken to secure a new development parcel, a loan now coming due. The fines from the condo association were a separate line item, his attorney's retainer another. The consignment shop had frozen the payment for the dining set after receiving a legal notice. The numbers did not add up. They bled red. Dana had gone to her sister for the night. She had said she needed space to think. Her parting words hung in the air. "I didn't know it was like this, Marcus. I thought you were helping her. The emails, the fired kid, is this who you are?" He had no answer that would satisfy her. The persona of the successful, shrewd provider was cracking, revealing the desperate calculations underneath. He closed the laptop. The room was dark. He looked out the window at the city lights, the symbols of a success that felt like it was sliding through his fingers. His plan had been so clear. Simplify his mother's life, unlock her equity, solve his cash flow problem. She was supposed to be grateful or at least compliant. He had banked on her love, her passivity, her age. He had miscalculated every variable. He had not seen the steel beneath the softness. He had not accounted for Gladys Patterson and her kitchen window. He had not fathomed the swift, brutal efficiency of Beverly Clark. He had not anticipated his own community turning into a chorus of witnesses against him. The hearing tomorrow was not a battle he could win. His attorney had made that plain. The best they could hope for was to mitigate the damages, to avoid a referral for criminal prosecution. The word criminal sent a cold shudder through him. He poured a drink, the ice clinking loudly in the quiet. He thought of his mother kneeling in a garden somewhere, calm and purposeful, while his own world constricted. The image was infuriating and baffling. She had found a lever and pulled it, and the ground had opened under his feet. He was not reflecting. He was tallying losses. The quiet before his dawn was not peaceful. It was filled with the stark arithmetic of ruin and the dawning, horrifying understanding that his mother held not just the evidence, but the key to any possible future. He would have to ask her for mercy. The thought was a bitterness on his tongue. He did not sleep. He stared at the numbers in the dark. I, however, slept deeply. The physical labor, the clarity of purpose, left no room for restless dreams. I woke before the alarm, feeling rested and clear-eyed. Today, the law would speak. Today, the waiting would end. I dressed again in the Navy suit. I ate toast with Gladys. We did not speak of what the day would bring. We simply prepared to meet it. The courthouse steps were cool in the morning shade. Gladys walked beside me, a silent sentinel. Miriam, Alma, and Carl were already there, standing in a small, sober group. They offered nods, not words. Their presence was a statement in itself. Beverly Clark met us at the doors, a leather folio under her arm. She looked at me, her eyes sharp and assessing. "Ready?" "Yes." "Remember, you are a witness to facts. If the judge asks you a question, answer directly. Do not elaborate. Do not look at your son. Focus on the judge or on me." "I understand." We entered the hallway. It was quieter than the day before. Marcus and his attorney stood near the courtroom door. Marcus wore a suit that looked too large on him now. His face was drawn, the confidence replaced by a hollowed-out tension. He did not look at me. His attorney, Richard Cole, spoke to him in a low, urgent monotone. The bailiff opened the doors. We filed in. Our group filled 2 rows on the left side. Marcus, Dana, and his attorney took the front row on the right. Dana kept her eyes fixed on her hands in her lap. The reporter, Lydia Shaw, sat in the back row, her notebook open. The room was paneled in dark wood. The air was still and carried the faint scent of old paper and furniture polish. The judge's bench was high and imposing. A court reporter sat off to the side, her fingers resting lightly on a stenograph machine. "All rise," the bailiff's voice cut through the silence. Judge Wilkins entered, a man in his 60s with a stern, lined face and sharp eyes behind rimless glasses. He took his seat. "Be seated." He shuffled some papers. This is the matter of Jenkins, a petition for a preliminary injunction and related motions. I have reviewed the filings and the supplemental declarations submitted yesterday. Attorney Clark, you may proceed. Beverly stood. She was calm, commanding the space without raising her voice. Thank you, Your Honor. This is a straightforward case of unlawful conversion, trespass, and financial exploitation. My client, Alina Jenkins, is a 62-year-old woman in full possession of her faculties. She owns her home outright. While she was at a medical appointment, her son, the respondent Marcus Jenkins, used a key she had provided for emergencies to empty her home of its contents. He removed family heirlooms, furniture, and personal effects. He sold some items. He informed her he was selling her house and that she was moving into his condo. He claimed this was for her own good. She laid out the facts in a clear, chronological order. She referenced my affidavit. She entered Gladys's photos and video into evidence, displaying a still image on a courtroom monitor, Marcus and his friend carrying my dining chairs. She presented the inventory list. She cited the state's elder abuse statute. The respondent's actions meet every element of the law, she continued. He took property without consent. He exercised control over it, depriving the owner. He has admitted to a financial motive in recorded conversation. He has violated her right to autonomy and the security of her home. The temporary restraining order was properly issued. We seek its conversion to a preliminary injunction, an order for the immediate return of all property, and a referral of the financial elder abuse allegations to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. She sat down. The judge made a note. Mr. Cole, the judge said. Richard Cole stood. Your Honor, this is a tragic family misunderstanding. My client acted out of concern for his aging mother. The home is large. She lives alone. He was proactive, perhaps overly so, in planning for her future. The removal of items was to facilitate updating and staging the home for a sale that would benefit her. Any proceeds were intended for her care. This is a matter of excessive zeal, not criminal intent. The judge looked at him over his glasses. Your client filed no advance notice with the court of a proposed guardianship or conservatorship. He did not seek a medical evaluation. He simply took her property. He sold it. Excessive zeal is not a legal defense to conversion. Do you have any evidence that Mrs. Jenkins is incompetent? Cole hesitated. No, Your Honor, but her age is not, in itself, evidence of incapacity. Do you dispute the facts as laid out by Attorney Clark, that he emptied the home without her knowledge? The facts are not in dispute, Your Honor, but the characterization. The facts are what they are, the judge interrupted, his voice dry. The characterization flows from them. Your response to the temporary order was to have your client attempt contact in violation of its terms, correct? He was distraught. He wished to reconcile. The recording of that contact indicates he was more concerned with his financial predicament than his mother's well-being. The judge looked down at his notes. I have reviewed the declarations from Alma Johnson and Carl Jefferson. They speak to a pattern of conduct. Are you requesting to cross-examine those declarants today? Cole seemed to deflate slightly. No, Your Honor. Very well. The judge looked at Beverly. Attorney Clark, is the respondent in compliance with the temporary order? Has he provided access to the storage unit? Beverly stood. He has provided the location and code, Your Honor. My client has visually confirmed her property is there. No items have been returned to the home as of this morning. The judge nodded. He was silent for a moment, reviewing his notes. The only sound was the soft hum of the fluorescent lights. Marcus had gone very still, his head bowed. The court finds, Judge Wilkins began, his voice firm and clear, that the petitioner, Alina Jenkins, has demonstrated a likelihood of success on the merits of her claims. She has shown irreparable harm in the unlawful dispossession of her home and belongings. The balance of equities weighs heavily in her favor. The public interest is served by preventing the financial exploitation of seniors. He looked directly at Marcus. The temporary restraining order is hereby made a preliminary injunction. Respondent Marcus Jenkins is ordered to ensure the return of every item removed from 214 Maple Drive to that address within 48 hours. He is to bear all costs of moving and restoration. He is prohibited from any contact with the petitioner except through counsel. He is to stay away from her residence. This injunction will remain in effect pending the resolution of the underlying civil actions. He turned to Beverly. Regarding the allegation of financial elder abuse under Penal Code Section 368, the evidence presented is sufficient to suggest a violation. The court refers this matter to the district attorney's office for review and possible prosecution. He struck his gavel once, a sharp, final crack of sound. So ordered. It was over. The legal victory was complete, recorded by the stenographer and sealed by the gavel. I let out a breath I had not realized I was holding. It was not a gasp of relief, but a slow, controlled exhalation. Vindication was a quiet feeling. It was the sensation of a locked door finally swinging open on clean, empty space. Beverly placed a hand briefly on my arm. Well done. Across the aisle, Richard Cole was speaking rapidly to Marcus, who had not moved. His face was ashen. The word prosecution seemed to hang in the air around him. Dana stood up abruptly and walked out of the courtroom alone, her steps hurried. My friends from the community gathered around me, their voices hushed. Miriam patted my shoulder. Alma smiled. Gladys stood close, a satisfied look in her eyes. "Thank you all," I said to them. "Your support mattered." We exited the courtroom. In the hallway, Beverly drew me aside. "The order is enforceable immediately. I will coordinate with a moving company. He has to pay for it. I will also contact the DA's office this afternoon. The criminal process is separate, but this referral is a serious matter for him." I looked toward the other end of the hall. Marcus was leaving with his attorney, his shoulders slumped. He did not look back. "What happens now?" I asked Beverly. "Now," she said, "you go home, you wait for your things to be returned, you live your life. The civil lawsuits will proceed, but with this ruling, his position is extremely weak. We will likely reach a settlement. The criminal side is out of our hands. Your part, the essential part, is finished. You won." I nodded. Winning felt less like celebration and more like the completion of a necessary, arduous task. The burden of proof was lifted. The law had spoken, and it had spoken for me. The empty house would soon be refilled, not just with objects, but with the reaffirmation of my right to occupy it. The victory was in the restoration, not the ruin. I turned and walked out of the courthouse into the morning sun, Gladys at my side, the formal order already being prepared by the clerk. The chamber was behind me. My future was ahead. The movers arrived at 9 o'clock the next morning, a team of 3 efficient men with a large truck. Beverly had arranged it, and the invoice would be sent to Marcus's attorney. I stood on the porch, Gladys beside me, holding a clipboard with the inventory list. The sun was bright, the air fresh. The house was still empty, but it no longer echoed with loss. It waited. The men began to unload. First came the boxes, labeled in that unfamiliar handwriting. I directed them, kitchen boxes to the kitchen, study to the study. Then came the furniture wrapped in padded blankets. The sofa, the armchairs, the bookshelves. I watched as they carried my life back across the threshold. Each item was a restoration. I checked them off the list. We were placing the bookshelves against their familiar walls when I saw his car pull up to the curb. A silver sedan, now looking dull and ordinary. He sat inside for a long moment. The movers passed him, carrying a box marked LINENS. He opened the car door and got out. He walked slowly up the path, his hands at his sides. He looked smaller. The injunction prohibited him from coming to the house, but he was here. I did not move from the porch. Gladys stepped slightly in front of me, a protective gesture I gently negated with a touch on her arm. I needed to face this alone. He stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. He looked up at me, his face ravaged by sleeplessness and fear. The movers passed between us, a buffer of normalcy. "The judge said no contact," I stated, my voice carrying over the sound of their footsteps. "I know," his voice was hoarse. "I'll leave, I needed to see you." I said nothing. I waited. He looked at the activity, at his childhood home being refilled. His plan in reverse. "They're bringing it all back," he said, as if surprised. "As ordered." He swallowed hard. His eyes were red-rimmed. The DA's office called my lawyer. They want a meeting. They're considering charges. I nodded. This was the expected consequence. Beverly had warned me. Mom, the word was a ragged breath. Please, you have to stop this. You have your things back. The house is yours. Please tell them to drop it. I can't have a criminal record. It's over. You won. It is over regarding my property, I agreed. The criminal matter is between you and the state. I do not control the district attorney. But you can influence it. If you tell them you don't want to press charges, if you forgive me. He took a step forward, his hands coming up in a pleading motion. I'm begging you, on my knees if that's what you want. His voice broke. I am begging you as your son. I looked at him, this man I had raised. I saw the little boy who had skinned his knees on these steps. I saw the stranger who had stolen from me. Both were true. The love was a deep, scarred ache. The betrayal was a cold, hard fact. They existed together and neither canceled the other out. What do you want from me, Marcus? What are you actually asking for? Forgiveness, he whispered. Forgiveness is not a legal waiver. It is not a transaction to avoid consequence. You are not asking for forgiveness. You are asking for a pardon. He hesitated, then nodded, a desperate, jerky motion. Yes, a pardon, please. I descended one step, then two, stopping so I was slightly above him but closer. The movers worked around us, giving us a wide berth. I will not ask the district attorney to drop the investigation. Your actions have a weight, and you must bear it. However, I paused, making sure he was listening. I will provide a statement. I will say that I believe restorative justice is more valuable than punitive punishment alone. I will say that if you demonstrate genuine change, I do not believe a prison sentence serves anyone. Hope flickered in his eyes, fragile and desperate. But my statement will have conditions. They are not negotiable. Anything. First, you will enter a court-approved program for financial management and ethics. You will complete it. Second, you will perform 200 hours of community service to be approved by me at the senior center or a legal aid clinic. Third, you will begin individual therapy to address your sense of entitlement and your relationship with family. You will provide me with quarterly proof of your attendance and progress from your therapist for 2 years. He stared at me, absorbing the list. They were not financial conditions. They were personal, invasive, and arduous. Fourth, I continued, my voice steady, you will write a letter of apology to Alma Johnson and to Carl Jefferson's nephew. You will acknowledge the harm you caused without excuse. Fifth, you will not contact me unless I initiate it for a period of 1 year. During that time, you will focus on becoming a better man, not on becoming my son again. That may come later. It is not guaranteed. The hope in his eyes had been replaced by a dawning, painful understanding. This was not an escape. It was a harder, longer path than he had imagined. It required work on his character, not just his legal strategy. This is controlling, he said weakly. It is accountability, I corrected. You sought to control my life. I am offering you a way to regain control of your own. The choice is yours. You can take these steps, and I will offer my statement to the DA accordingly. Or you can take your chances with the criminal justice system alone. But you will not receive a penny from me. You will not receive a blanket pardon. You will receive an opportunity to earn back a sliver of respect. That is all I can give. He stood there, trembling. The arrogant developer was gone. In his place was a humbled, frightened man facing the true cost of his actions. It was a cost measured in effort and humility, not dollars. He lowered his head. A tear fell onto the concrete path. I'll do it, he choked out. I'll do all of it. Then we have an understanding. Have your attorney contact Beverly Clark. She will draft the agreement and the statement. I turned and walked back up the steps to the porch. I picked up my clipboard. A mover approached. Where would you like the china cabinet, ma'am? In the dining room, against the east wall, please. My voice was normal, practical. I heard Marcus's car door shut. I heard the engine start and drive away. I did not watch him go. I watched the movers carry my mother's china cabinet back into its place. Later that afternoon, when the truck was empty and the men were gone, Gladys and I stood in the living room. The furniture was arranged. The books were stacked on the shelves, waiting to be organized. The house was full again. It was not exactly as it was. The spaces felt different, aware of their own violation and recovery. I went to the backyard. In a corner of the garage, I found what I was looking for, a young rose bush, its roots balled in burlap. I had bought it 2 days ago, a new start. I took a shovel and walked to the empty patch of earth by the porch. I dug. The soil was soft where the old bush had been ripped out. I placed the new bush in the hole, spreading its roots gently. I filled the hole, tamped the soil down, and watered it thoroughly. The canes were bare, but the graft union was strong. It would grow. It would not be the same bush my husband planted. It would be its own. Gladys brought out 2 glasses of lemonade. We sat on the porch steps, looking at the newly planted rose. "It's a good color," she said. "It is. What will you do now?" "I will live my life," I said. "I will tend my garden. I will see my friends. I will wait, and I will see if my son can learn to tend his own." The vengeance was complete. It had not been fiery or violent. It had been precise, legal, and cold. It had restored what was taken. It had imposed a cost. And in the end, it had left a narrow, difficult path open, not for my sake, but for the possibility that the man who did this might one day become someone worthy of the title son again. That was my final act, not of revenge, but of measured, conditional hope. The house was mine. The peace was mine. The future was, once again, my own.